The Hidden Edge. Today we're talking with Allisyn Howard from Ava Wellness. We're going to talk about all things intuition. Let's jump in on Behind the Book. Welcome to Behind the Book, where I am your guide, Heather Andrews, unraveling the captivating stories from behind the pages. Join me as I sit down with authors from the literary landscape to delve into challenges, inspirations, and untold tales that breathe life into their written worlds. The Hidden Edge with Allisyn Howard of Ava Wellness today on Behind the Book. Welcome, Allisyn, to the show.
Hi, Heather. How are you?
Excellent. So happy we're here.
Me too.
Yes. When we talk about The Hidden Edge, which was part of the name of your chapter in Culture Revolution, which was a #1 selling book on Amazon.
I still can't believe that.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. I love it when you get the #1 bestseller sticker. Like,
oh yeah,
yes, it's
so good.
So good. So when we talk about The Hidden Edge and why you wrote in the book, can you just give us a little bit of that backstory?
I did it partly because of some of the other authors in the book and yourself, because I knew you were involved, and telling you guys essentially horror stories of when my gut was screaming at me to not do something or to do something, and second guessing myself and learning and having to essentially develop and really hone in on my intuition in business, and all these business books that I was reading and all of these other sales books and everything. Nobody really talked about how you develop that intuition and how that's experience, as well as just trusting your gut and knowing your values, where you want to go. So when it was brought to me of like, hey, do you want to be in this book and do this? It was fairly easy for me to say yes, because I listened to my intuition and I was like, this is a part that I would want to be in. So
perfect. And when we talk about, this was one of the very first questions, and we just might as well hit it right in the front, is when I asked, what does culture mean to you? What can you give us just a quick overview of what that answer was?
Culture really means values to me, and people that have come together with an aligned vision and aligned values to be able to go make an impact on the world, whether that's through product or services. And I've seen both great cultures and awful cultures, and that idea of culture in the aligned values way, you can scale up or scale down. Right. So it can be like me and my husband have our own values and our own culture in our home, but countries have their own culture.
Yes.
Right. So it's something that I can see very easily.
Yeah, I love that. And so what would you say one of your biggest learning curves was, because the intuition is the hidden edge. But when you talked about, harnessing that culture in business, what was sort of the biggest obstacle or the biggest defining moment that you had where you knew that intuition was a really big part of being in business?
I think a lot of it comes back to, I call them defining moments. And looking back on your life, you usually end up having a handful of defining moments. Right. And every single one of them, for me, was a gut feeling, yes or no, kind of thing. And when I went against it and it was like, oh, this isn't for me, whether that was an ex-boyfriend or a job or whatever, I knew it wasn't for me, but I said yes, and always turned out horribly.
Yes.
And then on the flip side, when it was like, yes, oh my God, this is for me, and I went with it, usually I had a lot less information to go on, but it always turned out really wonderfully. And I started seeing that when I was running my first wellness business and things like that, where it was, even though sometimes the logic or the numbers or whatever was telling me this was the greatest plan, it really wasn't. And there was something I was like, oh man, I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me, but I couldn't put words to it. But the more I was in business and more times I saw it, the more experience I got, and the more I was like, I don't know, if something's wrong in this situation, I'm not going to get involved. And every time it was like, okay, good. It's a good thing we didn't. It got to the point with my last business, or 2 businesses ago rather. It's been a long time I've been in this business, but 2 businesses ago, it got to the point where it was like, oh, Allie's gut says no. It's a no.
Yeah.
I didn't have to explain myself, which was a really lovely place to get to in business. But I also helped my team cultivate that so that when it was a no or a yes from them, they didn't have to try to justify it.
Right.
Which created a stronger bond in general.
Right. I love that. And so being that we're talking a little bit about the hidden edge of intuition, and there's still a lot of people that just don't call this gut feeling and intuition, and they don't know how to really harness being the key word there, harness that. So somebody is sitting, one of our listeners is, or viewers is sitting on the fence about something, and they're like, good, and you can't get off the fence because what would be your, because we understand the yes and the heck no's, and but it's those fence moments that always get us, right?
Those are the ones you start second guessing yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a do I, don't I? And what I would really recommend, and I do this with all my clients, is I'm going, okay, what's the values?
Yeah.
Let's go back. Does this align with it or not? Because we always have those yes and no's, but you're right. Those on the fence moments are really difficult to navigate, especially if you're a woman.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, it might hurt somebody's feelings and I want to do this. And it's just like, what if this makes them feel bad or whatever? Those are the ones that's really difficult. But going back to the values of is this in alignment with what the goals are, with where I want to be going? And also, if the worst case scenario happens, like I like to catastrophize, a lot of coaches don't, but I like it because what's the absolute worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Can you live with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes? Okay, then sure, it might be worth a shot if it's in alignment.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh man, no, I could never live with that happening. I'm like, then don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And it's also relying on past experiences. Have you been in a situation similar to this? How did it work out?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That is so, it's good info. And I think one of the things that I love about you is, like you're like half my age, and
No, I'm not.
yeah, I'm old enough to be your mother, but that's okay. But just how you've already in tuned to this. And, and I think one of the reasons why I do love doing these books so much is because it's to inspire women of your age from an experience base, but then there's also this new conscious thinking amongst our youngers, our generations coming up. And I think when I was with Caitlin and Adam, we were talking about the vision of the book and who the target market was. It kind of hits two levels. It was, those people that are, our younger generation who really want that culture shift because the old's not going to serve them. And then there was also, the generations that have been in business for 20, 30 years that need to, possibly change and be in alignment to what the teams that they're trying to build. And I think that is very, very key in this Culture Revolution book.
It really is. And I think also, post-pandemic and everything, a lot of things in cultures have shifted. Because whether that is my generation and older going, oh man, I don't want to work in the office all the time and this is better for my health and all of that, or it's the younger generation coming into it and going, well, there's no real reason to have to go do these things. How do you mesh those two? And I think in the book we do a really lovely way of going, there are answers for both.
Yeah, there are. And there's stories, applicability, frameworks, key wisdoms, and that's the beautiful part of having the 13 insights. And I think that's what made this book so unique and special.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, tried and true and not so tried and true.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's beautiful. As we wrap up this interview today, where can people reach out to you?
So you can find me at avawellness.ca and also on Instagram at Ava Wellness Business.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And what would be the one tip of that hidden edge that you can give our viewers today?
Start listening. Your gut is telling you stuff, and whether that's get away from social media, get away from wherever it is where you're getting inundated with information, try to take a step back and really listen to what do I want? What feels in alignment? Because that's going to start nudging you in the right direction.
Perfect. Thank you. Stay tuned for the next episode with Allisyn as she talks about the silent mentor, as we've been on the hidden edge today and we're going to go into the silent mentor. So that one's going to be a good one. So make sure you stay tuned for the next episode with Allisyn Howard of Ava Wellness on Behind the Book. See you next time. As we close another chapter on Behind the Book, I want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our wonderful authors for sharing their stories. I'm Heather Andrews, reminding you that the adventure doesn't end here. Keep turning those pages, and I will see you next time.